For centuries, dragons have reigned as the most captivating and terrifying creatures in human history. From the fiery, winged beasts of European mythology to the serpentine creatures that lurked in the ancient waters of the East, dragons have symbolized both creation and destruction. These mythical creatures embody the unknown forces of nature that humans once feared, and many ancient civilizations believed dragons were not just figments of their imagination, but living beings, ancient and powerful enough to shape the world. The legend of the dragon is not simply a tale of fire-breathing monsters terrorizing villages. It is woven into the fabric of history, entangled with the stories of lost thrones, forgotten kings, and the rise and fall of empires. From the shadows of these towering creatures emerge stories of ancient beasts whose reigns were marked by bloodshed, treachery, and a hunger for power that transcended human limits. The history of dragons begins long before recorded history. Etched in the walls of caves, the pages of lost manuscripts, and the ancient oral traditions of civilizations long vanished. Today, we look into 8 such stories, each a dark tale of dragons, kings, and the fates of those who dare to challenge them. These are the legends of ancient beasts whose mysteries have only grown deeper with time, inviting us to discover what they might still hold for us today. In the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the earliest stories of dragons emerge. The Sumerians, Assyrians, and Babylonians all shared a fascination with these creatures, embedding dragons into their myths, their rituals, and their royal histories. The story of the Dragon Kings is one of the most haunting. The ancient Sumerians spoke of the Zu, a monstrous bird dragon that was said to control the winds and the skies. But it was the Babylonian dragon Tiamat that left the deepest mark. According to the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, Tiamat was a dragon goddess who ruled the primordial seas. She was said to be the very embodiment of chaos and destruction. The mighty Marduk, the hero god of Babylon, defeated her in a fierce battle, splitting her body in two to create the heavens and the earth. However, the defeat of Tiamat was not the end of the dragon's influence. Her legacy lingered in the nightmares of kings, who sought to wield the power of dragons for themselves. Kings like Nebuchadnezzar II were often associated with dragons, not just in mythology but in the actual imagery of their reign. Babylonian kings were depicted with dragon-like features, including the Ishtar Gate, adorned with glazed brick images of dragons that protected the gates to the city. The dragon, as both a symbol of power and destruction, represented the vast might of the Babylonian Empire, but also the inevitable collapse of even the mightiest of civilizations. Moving further into the ancient world, we find ourselves in Egypt, a civilization as old as time itself. Here, the symbolism of dragons takes on a more serpentine form, represented by the Apophis, the great serpent who challenged the sun god Ra. The Egyptians believed that every night, Apophis would attempt to swallow the sun and plunge the world into darkness. Every night, Ra's servants, the gods of Nile, fought Apophis to keep the world in balance. This cosmic battle between order and chaos, life and death, played out on a daily cycle, with the stakes being the very survival of the world itself. But Apophis was not just a symbol of chaos. The serpent was also a metaphor for the uncontrollable forces of nature, the floods of the Nile that both gave life to Egypt's people and threatened to destroy them. The dragon in this case represented the unseen, unpredictable forces that ancient Egyptians had to fight against for survival. Their kings, like Ramses II, sought to tame these forces through monumental acts of power, building massive temples to honor the gods and offering sacrifices to the divine. Yet, no matter how powerful the kings became, they could never fully control the serpentine chaos. The legend of Apophis became a reminder of the ancient, dark powers lurking in the world, waiting for the right moment to strike. In China, dragons were seen not as evil creatures, but as powerful, wise, and benevolent beings that control rain, floods, and the prosperity of the people. The lung, the Chinese dragon, was a symbol of imperial power, often associated with the emperor himself. The lung dragon was the ultimate symbol of power and legitimacy, often depicted in ancient Chinese myths as riding across the skies, breathing life-giving rain down upon the land. This dragon was said to be the guardian of the emperor, and became a central figure in the mythology surrounding China's imperial dynasties. But beneath this benevolent exterior, the lung was also a reminder of the delicate balance between power and chaos. The dragons were never truly tamed. The emperors who ruled with dragon imagery were always bound to the delicate dance of maintaining harmony in the kingdom, balance between the forces of heaven Earth and humankind. The fall of dynasties like the Qin dynasty marked the moment when these once dominant dragons faded into myth, as the kingdom fell into disarray. Even in the modern era, the memory of these dragons lives on. Their images still decorate imperial palaces, the Forbidden City, and countless temples across China. In the West, during the medieval era, dragons were feared and revered for their fierce power. These dragons were not the divine beings of the East, but rather monstrous creatures that roamed the earth, terrorizing villages and kings alike. One of the most famous tales of dragons in Europe comes from the legends of King Arthur, who faced a terrifying beast during his reign. The most well-known of these is the Red Dragon of Wales, which was prophesied to defeat the invading Anglo-Saxons. The dragon in this story represents both the Welsh people's struggle for survival and the birth of a new king who would rise up and protect his people. The prophecy foretold that the red dragon would overcome the white dragon, symbolizing the triumph of Welsh culture over the oppressive forces of the Saxons. For centuries, the legend of the red dragon has inspired Welsh nationalism, with the image of the dragon proudly displayed on the Welsh flag. The symbol of the dragon became one of the last remnants of ancient Celtic power and pride. It served as a reminder of the warriors who fought, died, and lived in the shadow of dragons and lost thrones. In the cold, harsh world of the Vikings, dragons took on a more literal and terrifying form. The Norse dragon, like Fafnir, was a creature driven by greed and violence, a symbol of the dangers of hoarding wealth and power. Fafnir, once a man, transformed into a dragon after being cursed by his own greed for gold. His insatiable desire for treasure led him to kill his own family and guard his hoard until his death. The Norse myths tell the hero Sigurd slaying Fafnir, an act that not only marked his bravery but also served as a warning about the perils of greed and the destructive power of dragons. The Viking world, steeped in violence and honor, viewed dragons as terrifying forces of nature that had to be overcome to claim victory, but they also represented the shadows of human flaws. Far from Europe and the East, in the vast landscapes of Central America, dragons were represented by the mighty Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. The Aztecs worshipped Quetzalcoatl as the creator god who brought knowledge, culture, and life to the people. He was seen as a benefactor to humankind and a protector of the earth. However, Quetzalcoatl's legacy also carries a dark edge of betrayal and downfall. The god was tricked by the evil Tezcatlipoca, who cast him out of the heavens. Quetzalcoatl's eventual return was marked by the fall of the Aztec Empire, as European invaders, seen as gods, came to conquer their civilization. The story of Quetzalcoatl's descent from grace and his eventual loss of power mirrors the fall of the Aztecs themselves, with dragons representing the fragility of even the greatest empires. In the deep, mysterious cultures of Africa, dragons are symbolized by the powerful serpent gods, often associated with fertility, life, and the spiritual world. The Dahomey people worshipped the serpent god Dahomey, who represented both creation and destruction. Dahomey was said to hold the power to regenerate life, to bring about fertility, and to restore balance to the natural world. But the serpent gods were not without their darker side. In some African tribes, dragons were symbols of the destructive forces that could sweep away entire civilizations. As European powers colonized the continent, many of these serpent deities were erased from history, their stories lost in the wake of colonialism and the rise of new religions. In the Americas, dragons took on many forms, from feathered serpents to giant creatures that dominated the land. The Inca Empire revered the dragon as a symbol of wisdom and strength, with dragons appearing in their art and stories. But like so many other cultures, the Inca were overwhelmed by the forces of empire, and their stories of dragons faded into myth. The stories of dragons and lost kings are as old as humanity itself. From the tales of Marduk and Tiamat to the serpents that slither through the jungles of South America, these creatures represent the intersection of myth, legend, and human condition. They remind us of our deep-seated fears, our hopes for salvation, and our struggle against the forces we cannot control. In the end, dragons may have vanished, but their stories remain forever etched in the bones of the earth, waiting for the next generation to uncover their mysteries.